Good evening, friends. Today is January 31st. My name's Gigi. Welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about astrology and some of the impressions that I receive as I'm working through charts. And this particular recording is for the full moon, which is happening tomorrow, February the 1st at 4:09 p.m. And that's Central Standard Time. So this full moon, I'm just going to share the chart here. This full moon happens in Leo. And as you can see, the moon is at 13 degrees and 9 minutes, 3 minutes, and the sun is at 13 degrees and 3 minutes. So this makes the full moon in Leo because the moon is in Leo. So a lot to cover on this. As you can see from here, all of the planets move from Capricorn through Pluto, every single one. And Mars is still there. So we have this 5-planet stellium, which is very much in range for the entire full moon. And this is a pretty heavy hitting full moon with all of these things across from here. So the sun is still creating a type of an effect here where Venus is still very close by, and we would say that she's under the beam, so she's hidden by the sun's light. And our values, what we deem to be important to us, how it is we choose to create an income, all of those things are still very much under the beams here of the sun in Aquarius. So as she moves along, she will show herself again. However, it will be a little bit yet. And so the sense of clarity will still take some time for us to be able to envision. Because if you can imagine, you have a spotlight in your eyes, you cannot see. Like you can see shadows perhaps, but there's not clarity when it's shining at you like that. And Mars is very much part of this as well, because it's only 6 degrees away from the other side. And she's 6 degrees away from Venus. So the sun is at the exact middle point of these two planets opposing the moon. So it's going to take some time for us to have our ability to be able to perceive just what it is that has been making, and what exists on those realms and those planes of awareness. We are continuing to feel this initiation that we've had through Pluto and through the whole Aquarius stellium. It's not completed. So I consider this time to still be transitory, meaning the information is being gathered, it's there, but it's not necessarily the official final information that will be on record as we're moving along. And there may be a sense of feeling like there's things that are still invisible to us, and as though we have to have applied mental rigor and using our senses to be able to sense what is there, even though we can't fully see it. So the sun also makes pretty much, contact with Neptune and Pluto. And because these aspects are still there, we get a glimpse of who it is we're becoming. And with the contact that Pluto has with Neptune, with the sun not too far away, we are in the process of transformation. And with that contact at the very highest point of the chart, it's how do we draw inspiration for what it is we feel and what it is that we are meant to do, because the top of the chart is part of what it is we're meant to do in the world. And it's like when the sun is glinting on the ocean, and like Neptune is the ocean, and Pluto is the very deepest parts of the earth, um, maybe even the deepest parts of the ocean. Who knows? Mariana's Trench, that's deep in the earth, but it's still in the ocean. Um, it's like the light is glinting off the waves on the water. And so we see the refractions of light, we see the diamond-like sparkle, but until we arrive to that place, is that light or is there something there? So we have a lot to distill at the soul level, but also at the mental, the emotional levels. And we will see what is there for us. Everybody's talking about the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, and what is it? I'm not really sure. So I'm sticking to what it is I see in the chart and what is coming through the chart to share with you. And, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. The other part of Neptune and Pluto being connected is, and at the highest point, this also is deception unmasked. So I feel like in the next coming days and weeks and probably months, there's going to be that's going to. And at 7 p.m. tonight, the moon will be moving through this point, opposing Pluto and then Mars as it makes its way to the sun. So it begins the process of the moon touching every one of these planets as the full moon is being developed, and it will touch the rest of the planets as it carries on through. So it very much is a time where there is much that will be seen. And, part of the I was talking about is the moon at in trine with Neptune. My words are even coming out funny tonight. It's like a struggle to speak. And so my apologies for that. The energy has been so intense in this last week with everything moving through here. And, we have other aspects. So please bear with me and thank you. So as I said, the sun is in a stellium, and as the sun is part of our core identity, who we are, how we illuminate ourselves to the world, what it is that we bring, how we are performative, how we are generous, how we, put ourselves in situations where we tend to be a focus. We are seeing new parts of ourselves, perhaps that we haven't seen, as everything is moving by. Pluto and the sun is moving by all of these as well. And we're becoming aware of our deepest compulsions, perhaps. And with it being in Aquarius, it's the collective. It's like everybody. It's the highest echelon of being tapped into what the collective zeitgeist might be. And we're becoming aware of our thoughts, our desires, and this can both be shadow and light. And it could expose, the sun exposes, truly, it brings light to what has been in the dark. So Aquarius is independent, high-minded, the need for freedom, the need to be authentic, the need to take radical acts of sovereignty for the self, the sun, sovereignty. So as the sun opposes Leo here, the sun in Leo, the moon in Leo, when I was sitting with this, and like today has been a day where I've really been diving deep into this chart to prepare for this. And it brought me back to the days of when I was working in a public career. And it felt a little bit, the moon is sitting here all by itself, really. and all of these planets across the table. It felt like being in a boardroom with a panel of people sitting on one side of the table and me sitting at a little table across the room facing them. And this can be very much unnerving. But as the reflection of light at its fullest is hitting the moon, and Leo is about authenticity and sovereignty and being exactly who we can't hide who we are. And this cosmic boardroom grouping that we're sitting across is really bringing into illumination where we have work to do. And the light coming from Aquarius is reflecting the collective light. And here we are sitting at our little table facing all of these archetypes with our heart in our hand, because Leo rules the heart, and it's courage, and it's leadership, and it's also where we hold our hubris. It could be pride, it could be arrogance. And here we are sitting across from the stellium, knowing that you're sitting in a moment where authenticity is being called for. That facing us, because this full moon officially opens up the door to the Aquarius eclipse that's coming in 2 weeks after this. And it's busy, it's intense, there's a lot going on. So the moon sitting here in Leo may be bringing us into our own reflection of what the stellium is reflecting to us. And have we embodied our challenges and emotions? And have we created a healthy self-love, healthy self-approval, healthy self-respect, healthy self-acceptance? Or did we trade those things for a moment of notoriety, popularity, limelight? And I don't want to say wannabe, but did we trade all of that for wannabe? Because wannabe is about something that's within. Wannabe is something about the ego that we are projecting out that may not fully encumber, or like we feel like may not fully encumber who we are. Our heart coherence is being tested here. Leo is also about creativity, and it's about children, and it's about play, and it's about playfulness. And so, have we not tended to our own inner child? Have we allowed the inner child to be abandoned and wounded and not nurtured? And when we are small people, before we're adults, we depend on others to do that. But when we reach that threshold of being fully in our legal capacity to take care of ourselves, if that's possible, then we are responsible to take care of that little person that's within us. So this full moon is really big. And it's not to say that we can't hold all of it. We must. But how we hold all of it is going to really set the tone and the pace for how the waves, as they keep coming towards us, will have impact. And we have an opportunity right at the end of this snake year to transform what has been difficult to withstand, and where we were misunderstood for our intentions, where our heart was calling us, but it didn't unfold the way we wanted to, hoped to. Maybe we didn't have all the pieces, I don't know. But here is where we have an opportunity to lean into our resilience and to nurture our wounded inner self and let go of the ego pride, the self, the ego, the pride. The sun asks us to integrate our personal and collective experiences to attract healing to the shadow, becoming more apparent at all levels. And sitting across from this boardroom table, that's the macro. This is community. This is beyond our own family. Like, this is the world that we live in, the extent of whatever that might be for each of us. And it's also an opportunity for us to work at our own micro level. And the two at some point will walk together. That's the hope. As things continue to be challenging in the world, we're going to need to narrow that gap between the macro and the micro and find where we can be. On the 2nd, the moon here will pass right through 0 of Virgo. And Regulus, the fixed star, Regulus represents the lion, the heart of the lion. Leo represents the heart. It's at 0 and a bit, 0 degrees and just a bit inside of Virgo. And the moon will pass right in front of Regulus. We call that an occultation. Virgo represents service, our health, our sacredness, our sacred embodiment. And this has the potential for us to bring us into our heart coherence with more authenticity, because the moon represents our body, our emotions, how we reflect what's inward, outward. And as it crosses over Regulus, it's an opportunity for deeper alignment to be received. And that deeper alignment is our birthright, and it is destined. We have the opportunity to reach for it and to have it there. At the same time, all of this is happening. We have Venus here and Mercury making a square to Uranus and Taurus, and Uranus is retrograde. And as this full moon is happening, these are making a square to that Uranus and Taurus, and that has a very high likelihood of bringing strange and unexpected events. And that could be at a personal level, at a community level, at a global level. I'm guessing it'll be all three, because it's Aquarius. It's bigger than just me and you. It's all of us. It will give us information for us to decode about the potential direction of our collective humanity here on Earth. And this is things happening deep within the psyche. It's from deeper within us. And what I'm talking about is that cord of spirit and of soul that we may not be in full consciousness of. And do we ever become in full consciousness of that? I'm not sure. Our goals as humans is to find our destiny. But there might be a tendency for us to begin taking actions. And this is Uranus, sudden, unexpected, weird lightning strikes. Some of these events over the collective airwaves, these are airwaves, Aquarius, may propel us to take actions which have a deeper impact on the collective and bring collective vibration into more coherence. Just happens with those things. As I was looking at Uranus today, I went down a real rabbit hole. It was just the craziest thing. So Uranus has been in Taurus since about 2018, and it has had great impact on the topic of resources and money. So finances, money exchanging, money being made, money being wagered, stocks, precious metals, all of those things. It's everything financial. And in the last 8 years, there's been a great deal of shift in our financial system. Everything from the US dollar, not necessarily being the main source of currency for the world, because now BRICS has also been, set up. And that's a number of countries who have banded together to create their own currency. And then there's cryptocurrency, and precious metals have taken another, big swoop as people are looking at having in hand tradable currency and cryptocurrency. So as it moves from Taurus into Gemini, the things that were happening last year between April and about the 4 months after April last year, some of those themes will be showing what endings are coming from that, which are launching new beginnings. So I'm not a financial expert. However, anybody who pays a little bit of attention understands that there's a lot moving around with currencies. And there's a lot more to come on all of that. And so the next time that Uranus is going to enter 0 degrees Taurus will be 2109, 2110, 84 years from now. So this year has been a big year about big movements. And so on February the 2nd, as it moves through all of this, it's going to make a square to Uranus, and then it'll make a triangle. So there are things that continue to be happening as Uranus is at the tail end of Taurus. What else do I want to say here? So Uranus is going to be stationing direct on February the 3rd. So on the 1st, we have the full moon. On the 2nd, we have the moon moving over Regulus. And on the 3rd, we have Uranus stationing to go direct. And again, that's a big deal because as it leaves Taurus, it's gone for the next 84 years, moving around into Gemini for about 7 or 8 years. So I began to look at, when was Uranus in Taurus before? And when was Uranus in Taurus at this very place and time? So I'm just going to stop the share for a moment just to grab that chart and show you what that looks like, because it truly was fascinating to be looking at what this full moon was bringing. And the last time that it was in Taurus, it was really crazy. Just going to So the last time that Uranus was in Taurus, and like I said, this was a bit trippy to be looking at this in this way. Uranus was at 2727 of Taurus in March of 1942. Everybody knows what was happening in that time and space. And I'm not going to say the words because it cues a whole bunch of other things. But you can see here that Taurus, Uranus is right there. The thing that struck me so hard was that the sun was at the top of the chart, and here we have Neptune. And the other thing that struck me was this full moon. Well, look at Pluto in this full moon is at 3 degrees of Aquarius. It was at 3 degrees of Leo at that time. So, does history always repeat? No, but it certainly does rhyme. And there's a couple of things I want to share with you about that time and place. Now, again, I'm going to be talking a little bit in code, but there's a purpose to this. So at this time and place, when Uranus was in Taurus last, and we see Leo having Pluto at 3 degrees, where now we have Pluto at 3 degrees of Aquarius. It was a water horse year. We're stepping into the fire horse. So there's another theme here of dynamic movement. And in this year, these are some of the notable things that happened, but I'm bringing these forward because Uranus does weird things and it brings weird things up. And it brings such a diverse kind of events to the table. So at this time, Anne Frank received a diary for her birthday. We all know the story of how her diaries were found later and published and written into a book. And the second great big conflict that involved all of the world powers in this year, that was in 1942, when the first load of people were hauled by a particular group that all of the Allies were fighting against into Germany. Everybody knows who Mahatma Gandhi is. He was a peaceful warrior. Well, in this year, he was arrested for protesting and for passing a motion that was rebelling against the Indian government for the caste system and the oppression. Everybody knows what the Manhattan Project was. That's the year that the Manhattan Project was launched in Philadelphia. The USSR launched Operation Uranus, that's a planet we're talking about, and they began circling the group that was targeting these people and hauling them on train cars. The movie The Casablanca premiered, and that's considered to be one of the biggest classics of the old movies. Bing Crosby created the song White Christmas. And this is also the year that 2 African-American men tried out for Major League Baseball teams. So it's a little bit of a flavor of what your Uranus can do and some of the tones it brings in Taurus. It's very sensory. It's very emotional. It's very much about the things that touch our values and the values we will fight for, literally. I'm not saying that those things are coming, but this is an illustration of the last time Uranus was in Taurus and leaving Taurus. So another thing that's really cool is Uranus is in Taurus right now, and it's at 27 degrees and 27 minutes. Just going to move this chart. 27, 27, 9, finishing 9 here. And it's moving on April the 25th this year into Gemini at 19:19 p.m. I use military, so 1 + 9 is 10. 1. We've moved into the 1 year at this point. So there's a lot of different things that are happening, and the endings and the beginnings are no doubt going to be potent and challenging for the collective, and we're already seeing so much challenge for the collective moving along. So I talk about these things not to create more anxiety, but it is a literal illustration of what can be created and produced through transits. And like this list really truly ranges the gamuts, like the far ends of things. And that's Uranus. We can't predict what it will be. In this time, there are some asteroids that are also involved. And so there's 2 asteroids that are literally at 13 degrees of Aquarius. One of them is called Rhea, And Rhea is one of the 12 Titans. And the 12 Titans were the super forces in Greek mythology that ruled the world. And when I was thinking about Rhea this morning, she's sitting here looking at the moon. And the words I heard were, that's titanic in proportion. And then it brought me the Titanic, like the boat that couldn't sink. And that was one of those events that nobody could have seen coming, could have predicted. And the colossal loss, and it was at night. They hit an iceberg, something they couldn't see. That's very Uranian, very Uranian. So the Titans are also out there moving big, big things as we're sitting here. And the actual Titan that represents Uranus is Prometheus. So this is a little bit more of a good news thing. Prometheus was cast away from Zeus's temple, and he was cast on earth because he stole fire for the humans who were cold and who had no way of surviving. So he brought them fire so they could warm themselves, so they could cook food, so that they could create with it. And fire is creation. The other one is Asclepius. Oh man, Asclepius. And she is an asteroid at 13 degrees of Uranus also, who is about regeneration. What her gift was is she could bring people back from the dead. So amidst all of this hardship, it speaks about significant transformation. Do you believe in miracles? And I think Asclepius tells us that we can raise ourselves from the depths of this Plutonic initiation. We can bring ourselves to a new sense of life. We can bring ourselves from dire circumstance, which feels like walking with the dead, back into walking with life and the world. There's always these powerful, powerful symbols that are happening with us as we're moving. The other thing that's happening in all of this, so tomorrow is the full moon, it's also Imbolc, one of the cross-quarter holidays of the wheel of the year. And it's represented by Saint Bridget or Bridget, and she is the goddess of fire, the eternal flame. And she mediates unity, and fire mediates change. So the moon is going to be moving, starting tonight through all of these planets coming into February 1st. And this is fire. So where are we being transformed? Through fire, through letting go, through allowing ourselves to be seen, through allowing ourselves to be able to embrace what's out there in the collective and still be as authentic and as generous as we can be. And as it is Imbolc, as the moon is moving, it's going to bring a lot of emotion up from the contact that it has with all of these planets. And the first one that it hits is Pluto. And then it'll hit Mars, and then the Sun, and then Venus, and then Mercury before it moves and touches Regulus. And Regulus is a fire deity as well. As each of these pass through the sun, it's an opportunity through this cross-quarter holiday to celebrate how the fire transforms us and for us to begin to see a version of ourselves that's perceptible. It also allows us to see where we sit in our own personal accounts, where we have given time and attention to things and where we haven't, and where we need to streamline that to gain authenticity. This is lighting the fires of purification as it's all moving through. This is also the snow moon, which is the coldest moon. It has the most snow on the time of this Imbolc, and it's a time when, of old, where survival would have been more difficult. And so the hopes of the life force were being held and preserved by the cow and the ewe that gave milk that helped sustain life, mother's milk, Saint Bridget. She was also called the archetypal mother of Christ in the terms of like the procession to Easter. So you can look at this through many different lenses, but however, the synchronicity of Imbolc being here at the same time as this Leo full moon, a fire moon, is really a moment to behold. It's not just another calendar shift that's happening. And there's lots of creative items that can be used to celebrate Imbolc, and I encourage you to look into that. All of this to say that this whole process of going through the full moon, the moon going over Regulus, the moon encountering each of the planets in Aquarius, Imbolc, Uranus stationing direct on the 3rd. This is a process of deep alchemy that we are walking through. And my intention is to walk through the chart with as much presence to be open to the alchemy that is available. And anybody can do this. It's not just anybody who understands this. You are a collective citizen. You are feeling the energies that are out there. And this alchemy that is available through this time speaks to infinite potential. And it's not only people who have special resources and abilities who can do this. We all contribute to the collective. And we all have the ability to receive this alchemizing movements and energies and frequencies. And we all have the ability in our own way, in our own lives, to create visionary leadership for the future, for innovation, for egalitarianism. And that's really what Aquarius is about. It's about the greater whole. And in this time of alchemy and all of these powerful fire movements, it's about doing the right thing when no one is watching. And then something dropped in for me on that. Here we are in the time of Aquarius where there's so much technology and there's cameras literally everywhere. They're in everybody's hands. They're on most homes. They're in streets. They're in vehicles. Like, really, I don't know where you can go where there isn't some form of camera. Even the satellites can take pictures of images on Earth. And so it got me to thinking, doing the right thing when no one is watching, but doing the right thing especially when someone is watching, especially when we are being seen. And that means standing in our own power and doing the right thing for ourselves within our values, contributing to this greater alchemy that is present. Understanding that we are all being seen now. There is really no hiding, not just with the technology, but energy speaks, and we are all being seen. The Sabian symbol, which is a symbol, there's a symbol written for every single degree of the zodiac. So this one I'm choosing for the full moon, 13 degrees, 3 minutes. So I'm looking at the Sabian symbol for that. And it's a cherub-like human soul that whispers into every receptive ear, seeking to manifest. And this is a deep realization that transformation is upon us at the soul level, and that the movement of the soul brings us into new possibilities and opportunities, and that it will come for each of us in different ways, but it also provides us an opportunity to be aligned and the willingness to be engaged at the soul level. So everyone receives downloads, messages, impressions in their own way. Every single person can do this. And for me, it's very hopeful to see the Sabian symbol because it means that there is a greater force, a greater oneness that is working on behalf of humanity, for humanity. And we as humanity can channel and work with that for and on behalf of humanity. And I just want to end with a quote from Mahatma Gandhi. It is better to have prayer without words than to have words without heart. Thank you for listening. I wish each and every one of you a blessed full moon, Imbolc, moon moving over regulus, Uranus stationing direct, and onward into the first of the eclipses of 2026, which is the Fire Horse eclipse, Chinese New Year, February 17th. But I will have more to come as the days pass as we approach that. Blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And as one of my favorite teachers says, act cosmically, but operate locally. We live in this body, in this space. We're still cosmic citizens. Blessings and take care.